The great play continues for Duke basketball, a win over Boston College, and now some time to take a breath, look in the mirror, reassess, reevaluate things, and buy game for the Blue Devils during the week. They're at Wake Forest coming up this weekend. A lot to discuss here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome on into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. So great to have you here with us on Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on in the life of Duke athletics. We talk a whole lot about this men's basketball team each and every day. Football a lot of the year, but we're focused on basketball here today following Duke's 25-point victory over Boston College. A little bit of time off in the week here before they take on Wake Forest in their next ACC game coming up this weekend. Our pal Kevin Connelly from Durham will be with us on today's show to discuss everything going on in the world of Duke basketball. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Watch our show each and every day on YouTube. You can like this video, share it with your friends, and most importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel as we continue our growth over there on YouTube with Locked On Blue Devils. So excited to bring him on into today's show. The aforementioned Kevin Connelly's back with us. Duke is now 16-2 overall on the year. It feels like it's been forever since they lost a game, and we certainly want to keep it that way, Kevin.
Oh, it has, JJ. I mean, the last time this team lost was, I think it was right before the Thanksgiving break and against Kansas. And they've been rolling ever since. They've kind of looked unbeatable ever since, including a victory over the number one team in Auburn. And it's kind of funny how Duke has beaten Auburn head-to-head, but Auburn's still number one in the AP poll, and Duke is number two. So I guess that provides for good conversation about maybe the validity, if I could speak right, of the Associated Press Top 25 poll and kind of how it's very arbitrary. But nonetheless, this team is playing some great basketball as of late. Yeah,
we could set up that discussion throughout the next few days and certainly later in the program, because it is worth having when you look at where Duke is at in the advanced analytics and where an Auburn team is as well. Both teams incredibly impressive basketball teams. But simply put, when you look at the head-to-head, Duke beat Auburn, and that's got to mean something at the end of the day when you're evaluating both of those teams. We'll focus on this Boston College win, however, for Duke. In the meantime, it's a 25-point victory on the road, and out of the gates in this one, Kevin, in so many ways, kind of felt like we might not be heading in that direction. The first 10 minutes of this game netted 20 points for Boston College. You carry that out for the rest of the game, they're looking at that 80 number in total points scored, which would be way up there in what the Duke defense is used to giving up. So a slow start defensively for the Blue Devils. Then, per usual, they really lock in and make it more and more complicated for Boston College.
Well, you know, JJ, and it was interesting watching the game kind of the whole weekend when you put it all together. Duke gets up to Massachusetts a little bit earlier in the day on Friday. They're having a great time at the Celtics Magic game on Friday night. They're meeting Jason Tatum, Paolo Banchero, Jon Scheyer, and Chris Carrawell are on the floor while the rest of the team is up in a suite having some good food, some good drinks. And you're playing a Boston College team that's not very good.
Right.
And you can kind of get into the mode of like, hey, we're up here having a great time. We had a great night at the Celtics game the other night, and we're just going to wake up, roll into this game, and get a win. And that's kind of felt like how they were playing for the first 10 minutes, and then you saw, as you mentioned, the switch kind of flipped. They started locking in on defense. I think Tyrese Proctor made a jump shot with about 6.5 minutes to go in the first half, and they never trailed after that. So they knocked the cobwebs out. Their quote-unquote vacation was over. They got back to business and resulted in a commanding victory in the second half.
Yeah, just a ho-hum 25-point victory on the road where you score 88 total points. A Duke team that was led on the night by Cooper Flagg. Tyrese Proctor poured in 20, as you mentioned. The only other guy in double figures for the Blue Devils was Isaiah Evans off the bench with 16. But just the cohesive unit of this Duke basketball team, knowing that, okay, we took a punch and we responded. that was really impressive to see because, again, it's a Duke team now that's playing still without Malik Brown. The second game that Malik Brown was not there, and early on, Venning for Boston College got a couple of easy looks there around the rim. This whole game, Duke was kind of playing with Malawach in foul trouble. Pat Ngamba finishes with 4 fouls as well. So Mason Gillis, big minutes for him on the interior. But that was also awesome to see the adjustments within that defensive game plan that Duke made because, again, they were kind of getting punched in the mouth there early.
Yeah, and it was, and it was a game that Con Kneppel really struggles. He doesn't score.
Right.
I mean, typically, if you're going into a game and you say Con Kneppel is not going to score, that's not really going to. You're not going to think it's going to yield good results. And Tyrese Proctor, the huge game after really struggling the last 2 games, didn't score against Miami. Only had 3 points against Notre Dame. He comes alive and kind of fills Con's shoes with 20 points and makes 3 3-pointers in the process. So. I think the depth of this team is really showing, especially in the injury to Malik Brown, who probably still won't be back for another couple of weeks, is you're seeing the guys that can step up, the Isaiah Evanses, who can come off the bench and provide a big scoring boost. Obviously, you have a guy like Cooper Flagg who could give you 25 on any given night. Tyrese Proctor has shown that he can handle the scoring load on a given night as well. So the depth of this team, I think, is really one of the more impressive things that I've seen.
Really good win for Duke to win by 25 points on the road at Boston College. And Cooper Flagg, once again, leads the way for this Duke basketball team night after night, finding more reasons to prove to the world that he's the best player in college basketball on his way to being the number 1 overall pick and so much more. Let's dive into Cooper Flagg himself and the game that he had after we take this first break here on today's show. Okay, Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by Prize Picks. The message brought to you by Prize Picks because that's the place to get real sports money action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, Prize Picks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or regular season, Prize Picks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all of that football action. Now it's playoff time, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks. We're getting ready for a couple of really big conference championship games coming up this weekend. Here's how it works. You simply pick more or less on at least 2 players, and if your money hits, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. That's right, 1,000 times your money just by making a few simple picks. Are you ready to run your game this football season? Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 off instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with Prize Picks. Prize Picks, run your game, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Okay, so Cooper Flagg leads the way for the Blue Devils in their win over Boston College. Kevin Conley's here with me on the day. Flagg finishes with 28 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 and 2 in the other statistical categories as well. I mean, what can't this guy do? He continues to do a little bit of everything. And, oh, yeah, he's 9 of 14 from the floor, 1 of 3 from three-point range, and 9 of 11 from the free throw line. He's getting more and more efficient as the games come along, Kev.
He's getting more and more efficient. He's getting more and more confident. You saw another big-time dunk in this game. It feels like he has one of those per game just about ever since that big-time poster against Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago. He's the best player in the country. I mean, I think everyone has kind of said it. It was kind of, okay, like, what does this kid have? And I think the big thing that really followed him over the first couple of months, weeks of his season were the turnovers at the end of the Kentucky and the Kansas game. And then he's taken off ever since. He has been really the best player in the country. I know Janai Broome is really good for Auburn. He's out now with an injury, and people are saying now, depending how long he's out, the door is wide open for Cooper Flagg, just about to seal up the National Player of the Year until he comes back. So, you know, I don't know what else there's not enough words to describe what he is doing right now. As you said, he's efficient. He can hit threes now. He's hitting free throws more consistently. He's scoring. He's rebounding. He's facilitating. His defense is probably the least talked about of his game, and that is still at a really high level. It's just incredible what he's doing.
And that's what I want to talk about here in just a moment. You mentioned again where he's at for Player of the Year awards. The betting markets, including our friends at FanDuel, have him right now as the runaway favorite. All of a sudden, to win that National Player of the Year award, he would be just the fourth freshman ever in men's college basketball to be the Player of the Year as a true freshman. But looking at what he does defensively with this team, what's so interesting to me, Kevin, is that we aren't talking that much about what he's doing defensively. And when we look at the type of player Cooper Flagg is coming into college and what to expect from him, many people, I was in the boat where it's like, hey, Knippel likely is going to be the leading scorer of this Duke basketball team, because you just didn't feel like the offensive game was going to be all the way there for Flagg. He wasn't going to be asked to do as much offensively. And now we're looking at it, and it's like you almost feel silly because, of course, he's an elite offensive basketball player. But, I mean, you and I were both a part of many of those conversations. We read and write Duke content galore. And for whatever reason, leading into his college debut, it was the defense we were more excited about than the offense.
Yeah, it was his defense and his versatility. He could guard a guard. He could guard a center. He can guard a wing. But right now, I think, this was kind of the case, and what got him into those turnovers against Kentucky and Kansas. Game on the line, you need a bucket. You're going to Cooper Flagg. And I think those failures in those two games helped him grow into what he is now, if you get what I'm saying. And again, if that situation arises again in one of these ACC games or the Illinois game late in the regular season up at Madison Square Garden, it's gonna be on him. He's gonna have the ball in his hands. I think it's just that simple of what it comes down to right now.
And the shooting continues to get better game by game. The free throws are awesome, very efficient, knocking those down, as we saw in that 42-point game against Notre Dame. And then again, he goes 9 of 11 against Boston College. But how about this? On 3.5 attempts per game in ACC play, he's shooting 50% from three-point range. Again, that volume there is it's not one attempt a game. It's not 3.5 attempts per game in ACC competition, and Cooper Flagg's still able to knock down 50% of those shots from the outside. And we already know if he gets ahead of steam down the lane, you're not stopping him. He's too big and too athletic, and so he's obviously going to make those 2-point shots. Now you add in this outside three ball. How do you stop the guy? That's what everybody's going to be asking themselves going forward.
No, it is, and I think we've kind of talked about this a lot with Cooper Flagg and other players as well. You can't guard him one-on-one. So you have more eyes on him on the offensive end of the floor, and that should open things up for other guys. It should give Knippel more room to operate. It should allow Tyrese Proctor to get to the basket. It should allow Sion James to be the versatile player that we've all seen before the Malik Brown injury, but now since Malik Brown has been injured over the past couple of games, he's developed even more to that all-around game. So I really can't say enough about how well Jon Scheyer built out this roster.
Yeah.
And he even kind of said it going back to the offseason. They didn't necessarily go for talent in the transfer portal because they knew the talent that they were going to have on their roster with Tyrese Proctor and these freshmen. They went for fit. And I think he hit an absolute home run with all these major impact players. And again, this is with Malik Brown basically missing the last 3 games, only playing 1 game against Notre Dame and then missing Miami and Boston College. So it has been great to see.
Yeah, just that 1 minute of action, and then he's been out and sidelined ever since. We'll see when he comes back. It's almost like you're saying it's not a coincidence that the surrounding cast has improved as Cooper Flagg has improved, right? Now that Flagg is his most efficient self, there's not nearly as much pressure in the other guys to come in and knock. I think about somebody like Mason Gillis, right? Where there's first few games, Cooper Flagg's not his most efficient self, and then it just felt like the weight of the world on those kickouts to a guy like Mason Gillis, who at the time was going through a shooting slump, or Sion James trying to find his footing. We put a lot of pressure on Knippel. Now that Flagg is right, everyone else has kind of followed his lead, and I don't think that's a coincidence.
No, it's not. And I think even though he's only 18 years old and he's only a freshman, everyone still looks to him for leadership. Yeah, Tyrese Proctor is a captain and whatnot, but it's Cooper Flagg. And even the players on the team, everybody's heard about this kid since he was in high school. And now that he's here and doing this, they still look to him for leadership. And I think his desire to win, his will to win, his competitiveness, it just rubs off on everybody else as well.
No doubt. Excited to see how he continues to go. It almost feels like, Kevin, I don't think there's I don't know what the regression would look like for Cooper Flagg other than him just not making shots at the end. It feels like, 16-2, 18 total games into it. As crazy as this seems, when guys are destined for the NBA, you can feel it. And I don't know that there's really anything out there that someone in college basketball can do to slow him down. That's wild to say, but I really do believe it. I think he's now the only guy that can slow himself down.
No, it makes sense. Now, I think when you get more talented teams on the other side of the court, and maybe even in these road games, because road games are tough, as we saw in the first 15 minutes of the game against Boston College. But looking forward, I think it'd be short-sighted just to talk about the ACC with this team. You're looking bigger picture here of national championship. So when you get better players on the other side of the court in the NCAA tournament, it might be a little bit more difficult for him. There's going to be game plans focused on him to slow him down, and they're going to have the defenders and athletes to try to do so on the other end. So, I think that's the way. But right now in ACC play, it feels like if he's going to have an off night, he's going to be his own worst enemy.
I still like Coop. I still like him. I'm still betting on him to kind of get the job done for this Duke team. Again, 25-point win, 88-63, the final score over Boston College. Proctor, an amazing game, adding 20 points for Duke. He kind of got them going early on with his scoring. Then how about Isaiah Evans, 16 points and 21 minutes of action, 4 of 9 from three-point range. What do you think of Slim?
So, it's crazy. I think when you say certain player is going to be an X factor down the stretch, I mean, people would say Tyrese Proctor and Con Knipple, guys who get a lot of minutes and are in the starting lineup. I think it's Isaiah Evans, man. I mean, when and you could look at this with different basketball teams. When certain guys score, it's more than just 2 or 3 points on the scoreboard. There's an entire level of confidence that ratchets up a notch when certain guys score. The intensity ratchets up when certain guys score. Isaiah Evans is that player for this Duke team. When he gets going from three-point range, he might be one of the most difficult players to stop in the country. That's how good he is. In this Boston College game, he goes 4 of 9 from three-point range. Obviously, everybody is going to remember the Auburn game where he made like his first 6 3-pointers in that game. And when he scores, he has this swagger about him. He starts talking to the fans along the court if they're on the road. Even if they're at home, he starts getting into it with the crazies as well. So I think Isaiah Evans was great in this game. I think they're going to need him to continue to play and get more minutes and shoot the ball the rest of the season. And I think he is the X factor for this team going forward.
I think that's very wise to think because I'm right there with you in the boat. I'm excited to see how he continues to up his game. I think the shot opportunities are clearly going to be there. He's not afraid to take shots out there on the floor, which is super exciting to see. He had a couple of drives to the rim in this one as well. So it's not just the three-point shot that you see Isaiah getting a little bit more and more comfortable. So Duke does not have a game during the week this week. Now they get set to take on Wake Forest coming up on Saturday. Let's highlight that and talk about a few more things after this final break here on today's show. All right, Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That is $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is so easy to navigate. The variety of bets keep it every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. You're not waiting around for any of your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Again, we're getting set for the conference championship games coming up this weekend. Right now on FanDuel, the Eagles are favored by 6 over the Commanders in the NFC Championship game. And then on the AFC side of things, it's the Kansas City Chiefs favored by 2 points over the Buffalo Bills. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. and a proud sponsor of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. Okay, wrapping up today's show, I've got Kevin Connelly here with me. I'm JJ Jackson. No basketball game for the Blue Devils in the midweek. They're back in action on Saturday, taking on Wake Forest. They've got the bye that so many teams will get to experience. What do you think this this no game, this sort of bye week during the week means for Duke, that we aren't getting a chance to watch them in the middle of the week? What's it going to do for them, you think?
I don't think it really is going to do that much, to be honest with you. I think maybe it is a good thing that you just buy yourself 7 days of no basketball, and you are banged up with Malik Brown being injured. So I think if anything, it could have maybe a little bit of a positive impact. I think you probably would like to be at home coming off of a week break like this. But I think you're going to learn a lot about this Wake Forest team. Maybe I feel like there's a handful of teams Duke goes into playing. Oh, this could be the second best team in the ACC. We thought maybe SMU could have done that. That's not the case. We thought Pitt could be that. That's not the case. Can Wake Forest be that? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, playing North Carolina Tuesday night at home. And then they have obviously a big week because they play Duke, and then they go on the road next week at Louisville. And Louisville, they really might be the second best team in the ACC. And that's a win that continues to age very well for Duke. Look at that Auburn game. You look at the Louisville game. Wins that are aging very nicely for this Blue Devil team. So we'll wait and see. You know, it's a crowd that's going to be charged up. We obviously remember what happened last year. Wake Forest wins. They storm the court. Kyle Filipowski gets tripped and hit, and the media makes it a really big story. So yeah, we'll see what Duke's return to Wake Forest is like on Saturday.
And then, you've got a full week off, but then it's the first of 3 of those really quick Saturday, Monday turnaround. So Duke will play Saturday afternoon at Wake Forest. And then Monday, they'll be back home inside Cameron taking on NC State. The first of 3 times during the regular season that takes place. We know, Kevin, ultimately, we want there to be 4. We want there to be an opportunity for Duke to be playing on Final Four Saturday and then turning it around quickly on Monday and playing in that national championship game. So a quick little turnaround time here for the Blue Devils. Taking on Wake Forest this weekend, to your point, they're arguing to be one of the best teams up there in the ACC. For a while, it looked like, from the Duke perspective, we were going to get Dickie V on the broadcast for this one, but it looks like Dick Vitale has been sidelined a little bit longer. But man, it felt fitting, and I do think they're going to try to work it into when this guy returns to the action to broadcast a game on the ESPN networks. It's a Duke game of all games that Dickie V gets to be a part of.
No, it certainly would be fitting for him to call a game with Cooper Flagg. Obviously, I know it probably works better for him to do a road game rather than be in Cameron and have to climb up to the crow's nest.
Right.
So that probably works better for his health, but hopefully he's able to get back out there pretty quickly and broadcast the Duke game this year.
All right, so now Duke has Wake Forest coming up. We saw Tyrese Proctor come back with a big game against Boston College after combining for just 3 points in the previous 2 games, right? Just 3 against Notre Dame. He's held scoreless against Miami, and then he goes off against Boston College. You mentioned it earlier. Now we've got a game where Con Knippel didn't score, and everybody's wondering how's he going to bounce back. You think it's fair to assume we could have a pretty good Con Knippel game coming our way against Wake Forest?
Yeah, I do. I think Duke's going to want to get his confidence going early, especially coming off a game where he struggled and didn't score. Remember, we had concerns about him not playing very well against power conference teams. This is a game that comes on the road. Now you go back on the road against Wake Forest. When Duke has one in this building, it feels like their shooters do pretty well. Remember the game where Luke Kennard hits the buzzer beater? Grayson Allen's had a couple of big games down in Wake Forest. So maybe Con Knippel could be the next big-time Duke shooter to have a big game on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, a little bit of controversy in the game last year at Wake Forest following that defeat with Kyle Filipowski walking off the court and the court storming and just all the chaos that we had. The year before that, Duke also lost at Wake Forest. As the permanent head coach, Jon Scheyer has not won a game at Wake Forest. In Coach K's final season, I was reminding myself a little bit earlier, Kevin, that was a game where Coach K was under the weather at Wake, and Jon Scheyer acted as the head coach, and Duke was able to pick up a win. Also that season against Wake Forest at home, the weird Coach K was there for the first half, got sick by halftime, and doesn't even come back out into the locker for the second half. And Jon Scheyer's the head coach for the second half. Duke also won that game. So all that to say, as the full-time head coach, we need Jon Scheyer's first win in Winston-Salem, and hopefully it's coming up on Saturday.
I probably would have remembered that if I thought back, but I'm glad you had those stats ready to go. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting for sure to see if you can finally notch that first full-time victory.
All right, it's going to be a great game. Duke and Wake Forest on Saturday. I know that you're going to have plenty of coverage over there at Ball Durham. Kevin, how can people get involved and best support you?
Come read us every day at balldurham.com. That's the biggest way. We got fresh content up there daily. So again, that's balldurham.com where you can come read us every day.
Love it. Let's do this again soon, Kevin, okay?
Thanks, JJ. Can't wait, man.
All right, that's Kevin Connelly. He's joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. So grateful that he's here with us. Thank you for your support as always as well. Please subscribe to our podcast feed and subscribe to our YouTube channel as we're getting closer to 3,000 subscribers. Appreciate all the loyal everydayers out there. That'll do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.